Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up, a new experience. Just you and I, Jeremy.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. And we already have comments coming in. Jimmy W., what's going on? Joshua Dorr, what's going on? And then he also said, late start, what's going on? Well, I'll admit, I just finished watching the defeat of my Milwaukee Bucks. They are out of the playoffs.
Mhm.
And yes,
So
so
they're gonna go home and sit on the couch like the Pistons, who've been on the couch since they started the season.
yeah. All I'm gonna say is, and I know the Bucks have a lot of star power, and obviously Giannis was out of commission for the whole series. So taking your number one player and having him out for the whole series, and your number two player out for 2 games of the series, and going up against a hot young team in Indiana, they were just the better team. I'll be honest with you. So they won, and kudos to them, and good luck to them.
And
But
especially
Joshua, that's why we didn't start, because I was literally watching that game.
Leafs or Bruins, it's not the Leafs. It's SOL. Same old Leaf. They'll lose in the first round of the playoffs.
You think so?
Yeah, they suck.
There. The only thing I will say about them, so Scott and I went to Toronto. We
Mhm.
went to visit their old stadium, and I will tell you, I was really surprised because the out outside of it, it looks exactly the same. They have not changed any of it. But there was an $80 million renovation of the inside. They lifted the floor from the bottom floor up to the 6th floor. They left the top seats around, so they lifted the ice rink. So now that ice rink is for a college, and they use it for national championships up there for the colleges. They converted the rest of the floors. 4 of them are college. No, 5 are the college. One is the first level is a grocery store. And they actually have, in one of the aisles is where center ice, actually they actually have still marking where center ice is, and they have a lot of different pictures around the different floors that went on. But I just thought it was really interesting. So I have to give them a lot kudos, because in Toronto, there's not a lot of land. So the only thing they can do is build up and down. And so kudos to them for selling it to the grocery store making the one level, parking is underground, and then selling to the college, and the college making use of it. The second floor is basketball courts, third and fourth are actually room classrooms, stuff like that. So kudos for making good use of that space and preserving some of history.
That's really cool. He wanted me to use the vocal thing.
Okay, that is cool. Smoking Jay doing the
What
voice changer
what you
for
drinking?
sure.
Mountain Dew. What else? I think my kidneys process it straight out. It doesn't even change colors anymore.
Well, you and me both, except mine's diet and yours is leaded. That's all.
Yeah.
Hmm. So let's talk. Well, last time we did a show, it was before the NFL draft, and both of us covered the NFL draft for our first time. Definitely a different experience. So talk about your experience. Let's talk about it.
Well, the experience itself was great. I just sat back and listened while all the other reporters and the questions they were asking. And you know what? I'm sitting there going, why isn't anybody asking any meaty questions? The only meaty question they got asked, other than mine, the entire day that I thought, was when they asked Darius Robertson about his process on how he prepares for game day. That's the only meaty question I heard all day. Everything was those casuals. What's it going to be like to be reunited with Brian Branch? I was like, God. that
Yes.
that is like the most casual question. You don't ask that the first night of the draft. You ask that after they've been at OTAs and actually worked out together.
I agree. I think a
I
lot of the media ask very general questions, and I think if they were national media and had arranged, because they could have arranged with the team to have one-on-one interviews with the players after the fact. I think that's probably where they ask more of their meaty, so they're not giving everybody else in the media the answers to the good questions.
That's why I did the one I did with Terry on. And you gotta admit, when Jeff Risdon was leaving, he goes, "What's your question for Terry?" And I said, I don't want to know how he felt. I don't want to know how he got back to playing. I want to know what he learned while he sat those 4 games. He goes, "That's a damn good question."
Yep.
And he actually messaged me on Facebook after he read my article, and he goes, "That was great. Great answer. Uh, I can't believe you, being so new in the media, had the balls to ask that in front of people."
Good for you. Good for you.
And,
It was definitely. Go ahead.
it- um, other than that, I liked what I learned from the IT guy and the police officer when I was standing outside just before day 3. I mean, to learn that there was actually 300,000 additional fans from every type of team outside of the facility, outside of the draft area. The 300,000 you guys saw, that was just what was in the TV area. That was paid attendance, people. That wasn't the free stuff. The free stuff was everything outside the gates and around. And so he didn't even count what was in the streets. He said in the bars from Greektown to the other side of the one campus, Marcius,
Hmm.
there was about 300,000. 300,000 around the draft. That's
Oh yeah.
amazing. If you add that in every day, that's another 900,000. 775 paid attendance for each day total in the draft. That's 1.675 million people in Detroit.
Hmm. Yes. The one thing I will tell people that if you have not already gotten a hotel room in Green Bay for next year's,
You
they
might
are
want to start
almost completely sold out already.
right. You got to start looking 2 counties away right now to find decent hotel rooms, not jacked up either.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
They know the year ahead of time.
Yep.
And
And they
I
know the
told my
dates.
we deserve a Super Bowl win in Detroit after the draft. I love it, Braylon. Yeah, 775,000 people. There was 700,000 through the gates when Governor Whitmer, just before she made that announcement. That didn't include the people that we saw still walking in. Because I literally was like, okay, we don't have a pick to the fifth round now. I'm going to go outside and have a smoke while we got this break because there was really not a lot for me to talk about. I walk outside, I light up my cigarette, and it says Detroit Lions are on the clock, and I was
Mhm.
like, I was like, oh well, I'm going to stay down here till it's done because I don't want to talk about it till after I know the pick. Because by the time I walk up there, it's done.
Right. Right.
Question for Candy: when will Dave join us? South Florida Tribune show.
When will Dave? I do not know.
Any immortal words of Cheech Marin? No, man, Dave's not here.
And Jimmy V, are you guys going to the draft next year? And I would say at this point it's TBD, to be determined. We don't know yet. I can tell you that I do have family that still live in the Menominee Falls area. So let me see if I.
Oh, Dave from my show. Remember Dave?
Dave from Smoking Jay's show.
You mean Dan Von Doom? Oh, he'll be on again.
Let's see if I do. I'm having issues tonight. Let's see here.
Oh, Big Dan Davis. That's who he's talking about. Big Dan
Uh,
Davis.
so the answer is I'm not sure. Menominee Falls, Wisconsin. WI.
That guy that no, David. I don't I've never had a David on. Oh, those guys. Okay, I know who he's talking about. Dave, Chris Sierra and Dave. They are Fourth and Goal Sports podcast, and he's really good. He would love Dave to be on Inside the Pigskin with us. Eh, I'll talk to Dave, see if he'd be interested in that. I don't know if he's available those days because he works as a truck driver during the week. He has a set schedule now. But if he is available, I'm quite sure if Scott's good with it, I'd have to talk to Scott first, introduce him to Scott, and get it that way. I'm not just gonna say, yeah, I can get him on the show because I'm not the boss.
Right, me either. Um, let's see. Back to the question about next year's draft. I have family that are within 2 hours of Green Bay, so if if we decided to, we could stay with them. I mean, by the time you really the day that makes the most sense, obviously, is Thursday night. It's that's the big night that really counts.
And the suggestion I made would have a spot for me too. Remember,
I
rent an
yeah.
RV, rent an
Oh,
RV. All I'd have to do is show up and pitch in.
yeah. That's always on the table as well. You never know,
I'm
huh?
just saying that's probably your best bet to get a room, even
Right.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
Can Candy give you a dog check? I don't know if she barks.
Oh, my bite might be worse than my bark. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking because I don't know if I'd ever want to make you mad because
I think it takes quite a bit though.
yeah,
Oh, your friend, he's a truck driver. He must be rich.
truck drivers make good money, but at the same time, you know what? It actually is a drain on the body. And how many skinny fit truck drivers are there under the age of 50? Think about it. You don't see it.
Very rare. Very rare.
How about we just do this? Woof. God, that actually sounded good with the reverb on it.
That did. Joshua. Roof. We'll do
There
that.
we go. She's officially a dog, Josh.
There we go.
Jesse Stauber's mom is a truck driver, and she's rich.
There is good money to be made, but there's also some drawbacks because you're not home very much, depending on and it also depends on what your kind of truck you're driving. I
Right.
mean,
Now that they have those automatic ones, I think the average person can get away with it if they just figure out the braking distance.
hmm next, good luck, Joshua. I don't know that you're going to get that ever, but
Did
keep
you get
trying.
my link that I sent you?
Did I get what?
They went up a little bit, but about the sound card I got.
Oh, I did. I haven't had a chance, but yes, it's brutal being on the road all the time. Yes, I can imagine.
It's a wear on the family. You have to have a certain mindset. And you know what? When you're a truck driver, you got to find a wife that does want to be the homemaker. And that's rare these days. Finding a woman that wants to stay home, be faithful, take care of kids, keep the house up, make it a home. Because you know what? In the traditional old values, the reason why the woman was called the wife and the homemaker is because that's exactly what she was. And they were happy to do it forever.
hmm It's kind of interesting because my uncle had the exact opposite role. Now they didn't have any kids, but he stayed home and she went to work, and she wasn't a truck driver, but so you just never know.
Right. Well, that's how this whole crazy stuff with the mental disorder that's known as changing sexes got started, as far as I'm concerned, is because there were guys that were capable, that were more feminine than they were masculine. And it's been all throughout history. There's always been guys that's been that way where they weren't the athletic guy, they weren't the man's man, but
Hmm.
they didn't do like guys now. Now it's the opposite. Candy works and Scott stays home. I don't think Scott really stays home all the time though.
He's not. He's out networking and writing and stuff like that. He's not home all the time, but
So when we were out there taking our pictures prior to the draft on day 3 for everybody so they could see the stage and all that good stuff, when we ran into that guy that was talking to us,
hmm
he's actually a comedian. He's friended me on Facebook. His name is Cristobal Flores. And yes, he calls himself the dirtiest comic that's sports oriented around, and he might be. And he'd be perfect on my show. And I
sounds
made
like
some connections. I can't say any names, but guess what? I might have a former Hall of Fame player on my podcast soon. Candy was there when I was told about it. I'm working the details out now. Should be within the next couple of weeks, but all I can say is he was at the draft.
hmm Oh yeah, and it's a big name, so that would be a really good interview for you. A really good possibility too, which is awesome. And that's what I think the NFL draft really was for a lot of people. Um,
Um,
chance to talk to other people
yeah,
and meet
and Jimmy asked us on a scale on 1 and 10, how did you like the draft? I'm going to let you answer with your answer first, Candy.
on a scale of 1 to 10. Now, I'm going to say, Jimmy, my answer I know is going to be very different from Jeremy's, and it would be different from Scott's because it was not in my hometown. I was I would say mine was probably an 8. And probably the only reason why it's not down a couple is because I was a little disappointed that from where we were in the media center that we couldn't actually ever look out and see the whole stage with the crowd. We had to watch it from a screen like everybody else. Um, I wish at one point they had have even if it was a small room or something where we could have gone to look out at the crowd from time to time, even if it was just down the hallway and like, you'd rotate people or something like that, that's one of the things I missed is that yes, I was there, but I wasn't actually out there.
And that was why, because that exit that I found was so close to the stage.
Mhm.
That's one of the reasons why I had more cigarettes this past weekend than I do when I'm working and I work in a shop where I can smoke.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying. I
Oh yeah.
I think I was taking, what, 2 cigarette breaks an hour there for a little bit.
Mhm.
I I know I went through some packs. But anyway, uh, for me, it's a 9, and for
Okay.
the exact same reason that Candy said, because it was in my hometown, it's a 9, because I'll tell you what, when I talked to that officer and he told me that all they had all weekend was 1 DUI in that area and 2 fistfights between 2 individuals, different ones each time, but and then there was some lady who brought in a ceramic pocket knife and she got busted. That was it. That's all the crime that happened in that area. And you're talking about Detroit, a city that used to be one of the top 10 in crime rate in the country. To have it be cleaned up and monitored that close. And I found out some more details about the 400 cops that were on duty. 5 of them were SWAT with sniper rifles on the top of the buildings surrounding the draft, just
Oh,
in
okay.
case.
Mhm.
So,
Josh, I do want to acknowledge what he's saying. Josh and the guys were thinking the same thing. You guys were just watching it on a screen. You could have done that from home. Yes, we could have watched that, but we wouldn't have had the interaction with any of the other media. We wouldn't have been able to that first night interview all of the draftees that came into the room and to talk to the media. So you would have missed all of that. And so just for those reasons, I mean, that's why you go to the draft, is to, interview some of them, some of the players, some of the future, some of those will be future Hall of Famers. Now, do we know which ones will? No. The jury will still be out, and it depends on what team you went to and stuff like that. But it's definitely an experience that you have to experience. If you're a fan of the NFL, you have to experience it at least once.
And everybody, I'll tell you what, it was worth it to be in the press room because those are the interviews you don't get to see. You get to see the one-on-one ones or the ones near the green room. The average people don't get to see the interview room like we had. I mean, yes, there was cameras there. A couple of them got it on film. That's an amazing experience, and it was my first time being in that situation. And when I had a chance, I rose to it for the Terrion Arnold bit. I mean, we only had 5 minutes per guy. That's it. It was 5 minutes. So if the questions were long winded, that meant you only got about 5 questions in
And
total.
let's face it, the media room probably had close to, would you say, 300, 400 of us in the media asking the questions, trying to get questions in?
Well, if you look, it was about there was 6 rows and they were 25 across approximately because it looked
Okay.
like they split an aisle down the middle at 12. And so I think there was close to 150, maybe 200 people
200?
in that room. But in our room where we were sitting doing the draft stuff on day one, there was 600 people in there because each one of those tables had 20 chairs down each side.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Jimmy W, thank you. It's something I've done every year, even from home. And whether I'm in Green Bay or at home, I hope Scott will do something similar to what I did. And because that was fun for me. It's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott realized how much I actually watch college football and pay attention to the players and everything. Because I had comments about players he knew I knew didn't know anything about. He was just like, wow. I mean,
You learn a lot.
I go in depth with it. I love college football. I love college football because those kids are, prior to the NIL, and some of them still do because not all of them get NIL deals.
So yes, we're glad that you enjoyed his live streaming and the reactions. That was awesome sitting next to him and trying to sometimes keep quiet and sometimes not. Gotta say hello.
Hello,
We enjoy it. Yep. I highly, highly recommend it as well.
because it's it's a passion for me to do this. Because I like to try to think as a GM when I'm doing my mock drafts. Because Candy has watched a couple of my shows where I've done it before.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thanks for the coverage.
Thank you, Kevin.
Love college football when Michigan is national champs.
Oh yeah,
Orlando, you can love it then, but I love it most of the time, no matter who is the champ. Yes, of course, it's better for your team to be on top. I get it, but
but you know, that's how I think. Is I try to put my head into Brad Holmes' head, listening to what he says and the type of players he's drafted. And what's funny is I actually got 3 players right out of the 6 we drafted.
mm-hmm.
Because if you look at every mock, there were certain players I took every time. Sion Vaki was one of them. But I didn't know he played running back. I was just going purely off of safety and the fact we brought him in for a visit. I didn't know at his pro day he did 4 different workouts for 4 different positions. I even said we'd probably take Giovanni Manu in day 3 just because of his size and athleticism. Can we talk about how awful that "What a Pro Wants" commercial is? Oh god, it was horrible. I hated it. You saw it so many times too. uh,
Yes.
and if he was there at 29, I was taking Terrion Arnold. That's 3 guys I was taking, and you can technically say 4 because I always took him in the 3rd round. I didn't think he'd fall to the 6th. Christian Mahogany, the guard out of Boston College. It comes on constantly during NHL games. The funniest moment for me is, Caleb was the number 1 pick overall, but they had him do the other part of the interview, car wash first, all the individual stuff with the big name guys and on the NFL Network, and then at the ESPN desk that was there and all that stuff. What was funny is as he gets up to leave in the actual press media room, and he leans down and he grabs that microphone, he goes, "Go Bears," as he walks out the room.
Mhm.
Salute, good sir.
Thank you for, coming on the show there, Joshua. We appreciate you. You have a early flight to catch, so thank you, thank you, thank you.
There. 5 for the 5 salutes there. How's that?
There you go. There you go. So what was your surprise of the draft? And it doesn't have to be a pick, it can be whatever.
Oh, it's a pick. It was Michael Penix going to Atlanta, causing a QB controversy that was not needed. As Orlando says right there about in his Damon Wayans voice, hated it.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of when Green Bay drafted Love, and I'm like, that didn't sit well with Aaron.
Slight difference there because Rodgers was already starting to waffle about retirement every year at that time. There's a
Right.
big difference there. If a
That's
player's letting himself talk about possibly retiring, trading up for a QB makes sense to have him sit behind that guy. Will Vogel! Hey, speak of the devil, there he is.
yes. Hello,
We say
Mr. Will.
nothing about you, Will. How are you doing? Are you alive? Are you good? Oh, no, we love you, Will. You'll be back on soon. We'll message you when you get your chance.
Yep. Yep. Um we Hey, I'm happy it's where they had Mitchell and Will, miss talking to you all. You'll be back, Will. You'll be back at some point. We kind of have done a little bit of changing with the Fire Up programming, and for right now, it's going to be me and Jeremy. We're going to invite one guest on certain weeks. We just don't know exactly who it'll be, but we will do that. And one of these weeks, it could be you, Will. You just never know. But we're kind of taming it down a little bit and just letting Jeremy and I talk. So he misses your show, Jeremy.
Aw, that's sweet.
Well, you know what to do or what not to do. That's all I'm going to say. But I think for me, it was interesting because I was talking with one of the media that was covering it from the Milwaukee market. And they actually live in Kenosha. And we were talking about how different it'll be and where they'll have it in Green Bay because they really haven't come out. They've kind of said it'll be around Lambeau. It's not going to be in Lambeau because you obviously can't draw. It's going to be in Titletown, but
But if
where and
you're thinking of that area, the only thing big enough to house that many people right there is the parking lot of Lambeau Field. Because I've looked at the map. There's not a close based park like there is at Detroit.
Mhm.
There's not even a high school football field that would be big enough, close enough, like it would be in Detroit. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be right in the parking lot. They're going to have to build a structure, a temporary structure. Orlando. But in a way, he's right. There's
Yep.
just a better infrastructure and a bigger facility available. There's that one automotive plant that's still sitting vacant and decrepit there in Milwaukee. I know because I've been there in the last 20 years. You take that and you turn that into a sports complex, and you don't have to make it for one sport. Think about it. Isn't the Milwaukee Brewers Stadium having issues?
Yeah, they've approved money now to fix it though.
But if
So
they took that money and coupled it with the money that they're gonna get to build a new stadium, you guys could make a super stadium that's shared between the 2 teams, is what
they
I'm getting
used they used to, but it's really hard because baseball and football really have different dimensions, and to have a really good stadium, it's hard. But Orlando, your Super Bowl is not going to happen in Wisconsin. It will not because one, we have an outdoor stadium and it's too cold at that time of year that they'll never have a Super Bowl. We do not. They do not have the hotel space. They know that. I mean, that's just the way it is, and I don't see them tearing Lambeau down anytime soon to change it up. We're going to be one of the only teams in the NFC North to still have an outdoor stadium.
Yep, because,
I don't see
the
that changing.
plans are in for a dome either going on Soldier Field or moving to that place in Arlington Heights, I think it's called, right?
Right, right.
It's one of the 2 is gonna happen with the Bears. They're gonna end up in a dome,
They are.
and I think all these northern markets, Chiefs are talking about doing a retractable dome because of that cold weather.
Hmm.
Because it didn't just affect the Dolphins players, it affected the Chiefs players too. Remember at the end of that game, Andy Reid's face matched his coat.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting if Lambeau wasn't so historic, you know, there would be a chance that they would change it, but because it is so historic that at least for right now, there's no plans of changing it.
Yeah, because I think, they said when Ford Field was built, and it got finished in what was it, 2001 was when we opened for that season. That was the first season we had Joey Harrington, if I remember right. He never got to play in the Silverdome. So, alls we know is that it's in Green Bay next year, and they'll decide on the next 2 locations this year. They do it 2 locations at a time when they do it. So, probably middle to end of the season, just like when they announced it would be in Detroit and Green Bay. It's gonna be
Mhm.
that type of thing. Because the year before, they announced it, "Oh, it's gonna be in Las Vegas and in Kansas City."
Yeah, you're correct. Orlando Yankee Stadium does not still exist, although they've built a field around that on that same stadium. And you're right, Tiger Stadium is no longer, but Tiger Stadium actually is still. That's not where they changed. No, Tiger
It's
Stadium is
gone,
yeah.
gone. It's gone, gone. Um, that's one of the things I miss out of the things that were lost. You know,
I will say,
I had my 2 seats from when I was 13 watching the Tigers during the World Series run. I had my 2 seats from when I watched Mr. Billy Sims karate kick Stevie Brown. You say what you want, that was a karate kick all day. It was a jumping side kick right to the guy's chest to make him get the first down. Um,
mhm.
I had those 4 seats. It was the one was the seat I sat in with my mom, and the other one was the seat I sat in with my dad. And those being gone, that's memories I can't bring back. I can't afford to bring back now because I bought them back when they were first tearing stuff down, and you could buy it from the construction guys for next to nothing. 'Cause that's just smart.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But Orlando, yes, you're right that some stadiums aren't still there, but some of them still are. Like I can tell you where County Stadium was, they changed that to a little league field. So yes, the big complex isn't there, but the field is actually still partly there.
And home
I
plate is still the original home plate, if I remember right. The
Mhm.
location of home plate for that little league field is still that
Yep,
is still the home plate from Tiger Stadium. The location,
exactly,
not the same plate, of course. You know,
exactly.
that would be 60 years old by now.
Yes. And when we were just talking earlier off camera that we had gone to Toronto. And we had visited the Maple Leafs old stadium, the original stadium that they had built in, I think it was 1931, and how they've transformed that stadium It's still, the outside is still all the same, dimensions, same brick, same everything. But now the first floor is a grocery store, and a college bought the rest of it, and it's floors 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. One's a hockey. Still, the top floor is the hockey rink with the original seating that was up on the top upper bowl, and then one level is a basketball court, and then rooms. So it's interesting what you can convert some things to. What money will do these days, right?
Yeah, and the very first time that they tried to destroy the Silver Dome, and they placed all those blasting stuff around the pillars, and we called it the house that Barry built. And the Silver Dome lived up to the name because it literally bounced and stayed standing up. I mean,
Hmm.
I've never seen a building jump a foot and just land back on its foundation and said, "Nah, I don't want to." That's a Barry Sanders move if I ever heard it.
That is. Orlando, my trip there was great, although Scott and I both got sick and got this nasty little head cold going on. But notice any big changes since you were last here? Well, obviously the whole downtown area where we were, where where they built the stage. Uh, I Orlando, I've honestly been to Detroit, and I hate to say this, more times in the last couple years than I care to, unfortunately for funerals. So we were the last, let's see, 21 and 2020, we were there for funerals. So,
In 2023, you were there to meet me.
yes, exactly. So we've been there numerous times. So the biggest changes I would say would be the downtown where we were. I've been to Joe Louis. I've been to Little Caesars. I've been to Ford Field. I We've driven by the Pontiac Silverdome when it was still up. Obviously, not when I wasn't there when it was still in use, but it was still up. And I was at the Palace of Auburn Hills at one point. I was inside there, so I have been to some of those places too. Um, but so the biggest change I would just say is where downtown, where we were for the draft, what they had done with all of that down there. So Mom's Spaghetti.
That is Eminem's restaurant that he named after that line in his song "Lose Yourself," "Mom Spaghetti," and that's all they serve there is spaghetti and breadsticks and salads. But no, we didn't get a chance to go to that. But I wish they'd have been one of the caterers one day while we were in the media room because I would could have. Spaghetti goes a long way and it's cheap.
Yeah. The city needed it so bad. Detroit showed up, and Detroit really did the NFL proud. I'll say. I really think the NFL was happy that they did put it in Detroit, and the way that Detroit responded was awesome. To see a city embrace the team and the NFL like they did was just really good to see. I had seen a stat. I'm trying to think. You guys, was it Nashville was the one that had 600,000 people, and that was back in, oh,
2019. It was the year prior to COVID.
and like last year that was very little. How many I thought I
300,
screenshotted.
312,000 is what was in Kansas City last year, if
And
I
the year
remember
before that was Vegas was 300,000.
And the
And
year
then,
before that was Chicago. 2 years before that was Chicago, if I remember right.
well, they didn't have one in 2020 or 21. So then 2019 was Nashville with 600. The year before that, 2018, was Dallas with only 200,000. The year before that was 2017 with Philadelphia with 250,000. The previous 2 years were 2016 and 2015 were both in Chicago. One had 200,000 and the other one was 225. So you guys blew everybody out of the water.
Put it this way, we almost beat the Chiefs on day one.
Hmm.
Kind of like week one last year. We did beat the Chiefs.
And Orlando Niagara Falls was beautiful. We were pleasantly surprised by um, Mr. Wilson, who had passed away, and his widow has basically she was left a boatload of money from the sale of their team, and I want to say it's something like $1 billion that she has sitting making money, and she takes the money that she makes off that money, which is $200 million, and puts it into New York in some spot in the state. She has they have built a welcoming visitor center on the US side of Niagara. They're building in the process of building two other little buildings, one that's going to hold, I think, a little movie theater so you can go in and see like the progress of Niagara Falls and all that's changed. And they have a gift shop. We did take the boat tour, Mist of the, I always forget how it's said, what it's, but it's like you basically sit in the boat and they take you around by the falls, and it is quite a wet experience because you don't realize how much mist comes off in the falls. Lady of the Mist, yes, that's what we took. uh, Awesome experience going over to Canada side. Obviously you can see more of the actual falls, but it was that was definitely beautiful. And then we headed up to Toronto. We covered Royals and Toronto Blue Jays baseball game. Scott got to talk with Don Mattingly, who when Don was a manager down here, they got to talk quite more frequently. And now that he's up in Toronto, they don't see each other very often. And Don's like, "Wait a minute, what are you doing up here?" And he's like, "Well, we came up to visit you. We did the draft thing, so that was really kind of cool." Um, Detroit, yeah, you need Summer Olympics.
We do need to place that bid. We just proved we can handle 1.6 million people just around Greektown and everything else. So, and we've got the space for the facilities that need to be built for the Olympics. That's what everybody doesn't realize. Since they took away the blight and they've knocked out so many of those decrepit buildings they're turning most of them into new high rises, those expensive New York style flats. And who buys them or rents them? Usually it's corporations that have visiting people from out of state or out of country, because it gives them a nice secure location to put people up in. And once they own the building, they can get it for cheap.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't realize how close Detroit and Windsor are because there's a lot of hotels in both. So, like, if you have it in one spot, you have a lot of hotels in the other city that people can stay at too. So, I think that makes it even better and easier for, the people of Detroit too.
Exactly.
Also, close university facilities. That's true.
Yeah, you got Olympic style. A university track and field event is the same as an Olympic track and field event. The only thing you'd really have to do is clear the path for the marathon type stuff. The triathlon, no problem. St. Clair River's right there. Not saying you want to swim in it, but hey, you got to do what you got to do.
hmm
People don't want to swim in the ocean near those big cities either, but they do it in those things. Ann Arbor's available. That's another one. But Detroit is the city that has the infrastructure to handle it. Ann Arbor, Windsor really don't either. If you actually look at the amount of cops they have on duty, they would have to triple to quadruple their police force to be able to handle that type of business. They'd be able to handle the overflow to the hotels, but not the actual event itself.
Right. And you have I mean, well, for summer you have Little Caesars, but that could be the basketball. I mean, your big fields are right there. The Ford Field, I don't know that people realize how close those are in proximity.
It, it it's not city blocks, but they are all 6 blocks apart. If you put it into actual city blocks, it's probably a 20-block circumference where all of those things are.
hmm Yep, I could see it. They could do it.
And Wayne State University's right there with the tracks. for them,
Oh
but
yeah.
they don't have the seating at that track for them. I think they would hold all the track stuff at Ann Arbor, where they have the bigger stadium for it.
Mhm.
I, I just, I just think that would be the better spot for the track and field.
I could see it. I could see it. Let's put in a bid now.
But also, I wanted to say, I was when we were driving in the first day, and I looked up and I saw this building. I was like, it said Town Line Apartments. I was like, oh my god, that was the old hotel that we had to go to stay in the night before we took our testing at the Met Center to get into the military. So from '88 to 2024, yeah, I'm old, people. That's how much it changed, but the building's still there. It just has prettier tinted windows, and they're not looking like a hotel anymore. It looks more like apartments
Mhm.
because you'll have the couple little windows for the bedrooms, and then you'll have the big bay window for the living room, and then it's the same thing down the way. So it was amazing to see all that stuff. You know, when you go in from a different venue, a point of approach to what you're used to going, you see different stuff you didn't even realize that you saw when you were a kid.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
But you know what else this tells a certain commissioner? Adam Stern, you're screwing up. Or Adam Silvers, David Stern, all of them. Not
Mhm.
letting Detroit host an NBA All Star game is a travesty when we've hosted a Super Bowl. Technically, too, because we had one at the Silverdome as well.
Yep.
And if we can handle the fans for the NFL in the middle of winter like that, the All Star game shouldn't be an issue.
Nope, I agree. I agree.
But
Yes,
it was
comeback
nice.
story. And the Lions have done an amazing job coming back.
But at the same
Kudos.
time, if you look at free agency around the league and the draft, NFC North might be the most competitive division in football this year, other than the AFC North. I think we're going to get the same amount because it's usually only 5 or 6 at most that a team gets in a season. And usually it's the Super Bowl winner that gets the sixth one because they usually get the Hall of Fame game prior to the preseason starting for the very first preseason game. So,
Well, and I think the national TV games are going to be down only because so much more with Amazon Prime. I mean, all these side streaming places that they're going to. Let's face it, and I'll say this again, I do not like this, and I've made myself very clear about this, but the opening weekend, and you're going to put a game in Brazil,
put it on.
and you're going to put that on streaming on Peacock, and you're not going to put that on national TV. Yet you want all to get into all these new markets, but yet you don't want those of us that are the fan to see, unless we're going to pay for extra for streaming, to see some of these played in different outside the country. Let's put it that way.
Why I will this summer, because I have to renew it in August, I'm going to get you the link to the streaming service I use because it doesn't matter what channel it's on, you get it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'd rather save people money. It,
Exactly.
I've been promoting them so much. I want them to see my show and make me a deal for me to be sponsored by them because I will promote it because it's very economic when you can get a streaming service that for the year costs you as much as cable does for 1 month with 2 premium channels.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. I hear you.
And now you got to pay extra with Comcast or Xfinity as it's called if you want Bally Sports to watch Tiger games because somebody got greedy at Bally Sports and asked for too much money, and they were like, "Fine, bye."
Yep.
Because Xfinity is the biggest one, and second place is Spectrum. Then it's the Times Warner, right?
I think so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You got Spectrum, you're gold. So in other words, if you live in Davison, which is right around the corner from me, who has Spectrum, or you live up there near the Tri-Cities, you have Spectrum there. You guys get Valley and Fox Sports. Xfinity's done with it.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
It's irritating.
I know.
And other news that broke around Detroit while we were there that I didn't even get a chance to mention is in Warren, the Lakeview Mall. Its last day open is July 1st. We're talking about a mall where it was one of the biggest ones for seeing Santa. Uh, they had Pro Sports Zone there. That's one of the Pro Sports Zone locations where the rookies from every team in Detroit would go to sign apparel and mini helmets and pictures and stuff. That's going to be gone. A mall rats type of mall. Absolutely, Orlando Escorbano. And when I was a kid here in Flint, we had one called Genesee Valley. Now it's like, it's called Genesee Valley Center anymore. It's not called the mall. It's sad. All this stuff is going away and changing. And it's mostly due to Amazon and all the internet stuff. Heck, me buying stuff on Temu or ordering it through Walmart.com is what's hurting the retail America business.
Yep.
Mom and pop shops barely have a chance anymore
Mm-hmm.
because
I
they got to
agree.
keep prices so low they can't afford to pay people to run it for them, so they have to run it themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the world that we knew and the world that we grew up is definitely not the same. I own Boost Store. They are charging $3,000 a month.
For your rent,
Oh yeah, I used to talk with one of the Subway shops that was near my branch when I worked at a different location, and they were saying their rent was $4,000 a month, and even during COVID, which made it really hard to make those, make those dollars. So I can only imagine mall space how much the premium for that is.
so my suggestion, since they're closing up quicker than anything since 7-Eleven got in bed with Speedway, find a closing 7-Eleven and make a bid on the building quick.
Yep.
Because if I don't care if it's a corner lot's perfect. You can draw your business there, Orlando. A monthly payment is probably way less than that 3,000 a month for the mall space.
Oh yeah.
Food for thought. Ralph, how you doing, buddy? Steelers had a great draft. You guys should be much better this year.
I think a lot of teams overall drafted pretty well.
The only damn near failing grade I have is the Falcons, just
Mhm.
because of that first round pick. They needed so much on defense and on the O line, and even another weapon. They could have had Roma Dunze to go with Kirk Cousins to pair with Drake London, and then have Kyle Pitts as a slot receiver because he's not a tight end. He's a receiver in a tight end's body.
Mhm.
I still think genetically he's related to Julio Jones.
Wow.
I'm just got the same allergy. It's called the end zone.
If we are good, we are a little tired. I will say I'm a little road weary. Uh, Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern time, we took off to end our vacation, and we drove from here to Detroit, Detroit to Niagara, Niagara to Toronto, and so Toronto all the way back home to South Florida was over 22 hours in the car. So that was quite the haul to do it from Tuesday night into getting home last night at 8 p.m. And the fact that we both caught colds and are sick and coughing, that didn't help any. I will tell you, normally I have an state intimidator, but because he was under the weather, he did not drive. Normally he drives three quarters to almost all of it. he did not even make it for a quarter of that drive. So I put put my driving pants on and gloves on, I guess. That was the longest I've ever driven, but we made
Candy,
it.
Candy had to put her big girl pants on.
I did. I did. And then today I had the extreme pleasure of going to my vet because we when we leave for a long period of time, we board our two cats, Bucky and Boots. And I can tell you that Bucky does not like to be boarded. Boots doesn't mind it. Bucky so much so that when we had asked the vet to just come out, and he went to go get Bucky, and Bucky hissed and almost bit him, so he had to be sedated. And so when I went to pick him up tonight, they said that the doc even had to help them uh get him into the cage, into his carrier. And when they did that, he again did not like them. And let's just put it to you this way. Yeah, he made that very well known by, how should I put this? Defecating all over.
Oh
That
no.
was, yeah, yeah. So I have a carrier in my garage that I need to hose completely down, and I had to wipe down a cat, and he wasn't very happy with me. But so I have to figure out what I'm going to be able to do next time to get him. Whereas my other cat loved all the attention and all the girls coming over and rubbing his head, and the other one, whew, nope.
That deserves a ew.
Yes. And no, I did not wear my cheese head when I was driving.
I don't think Candy's your typical cheesehead.
No.
I've never seen her wear one. I have seen her wear a jersey once, but we were just talking that we weren't on a show because Scott doesn't like us to wear jerseys on the show or team paraphernalia. I'm lucky I get away with my logo, people.
But I do have, and I wore this during the whole draft. I do have a necklace that is it's gold, and it's just a little football, and inside the football it says Packers. My mom gave me that many years ago, so I do wear that, but it's not very like it's not a bling bling type of necklace. It's very soft and um, although someone at the draft noticed it and said, "I really like you. Must be a Packers fan." And I'm like, what gave that away?"
Your necklace.
But yes, um,
I thought it was great because it happened before we got there on day one while we were at media hospitality at McAfee shows going on. And it was when the sun first broke out and it started to warm up. And they did have a Packers beat writer on as a guest. And the whole crowd, Orlando, yes, yes, it's not fair. I'll get Scott the Ron Burgundy, whatever you guys want me to get him to say. Uh, yeah. But the whole crowd started screaming the FTP, but actually using the words at the guy. He just grabs the mic and he turns to the window and he goes, F the Lions. Right up that back. I'm quite sure ESPN is not as happy with the Pat McAfee show as they thought they'd be.
yeah, I'm sure. Um, but it was an experience I'll never forget.
Oh man, that's sweet. But you got at the early part, it's going to be mostly Lions fans there because the draft is here. We got a first round pick. We're all hyped up. We're ready to rock. And so it was like 10 to 20,000 Lions fans screaming it so loud you could hear it through the mics in the studio. And they try to soundproof those things to not have that.
Hmm.
It, and so I'm just dying.
Well, anytime, like I would say I don't remember hearing it so much the first round picks for Minnesota or Chicago. But anytime any Packer went up there or they were talking about a Packers pick, the crowd obviously booed, got into it because obviously they're a rival. But I would say as the later rounds went on, I noticed they were also starting to do it for some of the Bears and some of the Minnesota.
And it was
And
mostly
that's
because of what the people said on the stage. It wasn't because of the team itself.
right.
When they started letting the fans pick on day 3 and they start trashing the Lions, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
160,000 people outnumbered the main part of the rest of the guys. I think
Oh yeah.
it was 160,000 on day 1 that
Yep.
were Lions fans there.
Oh yeah. And they booed the Packers for even the second round when it was Brian Bulaga was up there. But you know, it's all good because it's all good rivalry. And you like to see the spirit. I mean, let's face it, they should be rooting for their team just like I expect nothing different when they go to Green Bay next year. Each team has their big rivalries and they're going to do it. So, um but well, Jeremy, normally we talk normally one topic each on my town. Have you prepared anything about your town?
I want to get into a UDFA that we picked up after the draft. And it's somebody that was talked about. If he wouldn't have got hurt, he probably would have been a day 1 or day 2 pick at center. It's Kingsley Eguakun of Florida, which I know Candy has seen him before because Florida plays in Florida, and I know she knows who I'm talking about. He had a bad lower leg injury about 4 weeks into the season, and he's fully recovered and he's passed his medicals. So the Lions actually guaranteed him 240,000 of his UDFA salary, and I only say that because when it's that amount of money, those guys tend to make the 53-man roster. And seeing how we don't have just a center to back up Ragnow, I think that's the guy that they're targeting to be the backup for Ragnow, so Glasgow can focus at being left guard because Zietler is predominantly and only a right guard.
My town, obviously, I said at the opening of the show, we waited till a little bit later because I was watching the Indiana Pacers beat Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA playoffs. The Bucks are out. But what I want to get down to and what I want to talk about is I want it's time for on all of the sports for the refs, umpires, um, you name it, for them to get their heads in the game and to be making the right calls because some of the calls I've seen have been so controversial. In fact, there was a call in Brewers versus Yankees the other day that the league came back after the fact and said that was the wrong call against the Brewers, and it went in the favor of none other Aaron Judge. And until we can stop the biases and giving these extremely overpaid players the benefit of the doubt too much or overcompensating, it's just sad. It's sad that some of these calls are coming down to and making such a and we can talk about how they change the course of a game and oh, but it doesn't come down to one call because there was how many other plays. But it can really change the direction of a team and their mentality. And I even saw it tonight some in the Bucks game and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And I know I'm all for my team. And obviously I'm going to be a little more biased. But we've seen it even in the NFL. Some of these games, some of these umpires or refs not making the right call. We've seen it in baseball. We've seen it in basketball. We see it in hockey. I don't know what the answer is. Baseball, I mean, they're getting to the point where robot umps. Is that the answer? I don't know. You
And
know.
and you know what's funny is it actually worked. They used it in the minor leagues, in the double A, single A, and triple A,
Hmm.
using the computer to call the it's a computer camera that's special.
Hmm.
It actually is 100% accurate. And they can use it to overturn an ump. It's just a matter of time before it's going to start being used in the major leagues. Because you know what? They're tired of the Jim West calling a ball that's across the plate outside, ball four,
Right.
or just the opposite. If it's the opposing team, a ball that's a foot off the plate and call a strike, blatantly missing it. And Jim West is one of the worst at it.
Yep. I agree.
But
And that would
NBA is
be
starting to get it right because they have their to get the white guys for the playoffs every year. They have to be X amount of percent accurate or better on their regular season games. That's a step in the right direction. And the fact that they do have replay now in the NBA. So if the refs think they got it wrong, if one of them says, "Hey, that's not what I saw," they get together and they watch the replay and they correct it. The problem is you're not always going to have a ref see when a guy makes the wrong call.
exactly.
So there should be coaches challenges in the NBA as well.
Hmm.
Because if they can review it, then you should be able to call for it.
Well, they are allowed what I think it's two because I saw tonight the Indiana Pacers coach did use I think it was twice, and I think that's the max.
Right.
Um,
I think they
but
need to adapt the new rule that Dan Campbell and Sheila Hamp got him invoked in the NFL. If you get it right in the first half, you get an extra one in the second half. And
hmm
there's certain things that if the refs can review it to get it right, then the coaches should be able to call the review to get it right.
right,
I
I
don't
agree.
like that because there are times when an interception is called and they say it's automatically reviewed. And we can watch the review and see they got the call wrong and they still uphold the call. And I'm
Hmm.
sorry, I'm not watching it in a screen that's right here within an inch of my face, but with everything blacked out around me, so that's all I get to see. If I can see it on my 50-inch TV across the 20-foot room, they should be able to see it on a 12-inch screen that's up to their eyeball. If they can't, they need their eyes checked.
Exactly. Anything else, Chip?
Try every day to be a better person than you were the day before. It's the only way to make the world a better place. It starts right here. Much love to everybody in the chat. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, subscribe, like, share this podcast right here. I know all of you have or will, but also don't forget to check out my podcast. This one's the South Florida Tribune channel. My
Hmm.
podcast is Kneecap Fighting with the Motor City Lions. You can see my writings at the southfloridatribune.com. There's like 3 white hash marks in the middle of the red bar. That is where you pull it down. You go to the contributor writings and you'll see the Motor City Tribune and find me.
Exactly. And he's got stories up already about the NFL draft. We have a player in Scott actually landed an interview with Mel Owens, I believe, and he was drafted in the first round back
19
in
1981.
and you'll find that on the South Florida Tribune. Go under our videos, and you'll be able to see that interview. Scott also wrote a book. He wrote a book. Let's put it up.
Not right here, right there.
Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It's available on Amazon. It's available on see, I always get that backwards. I'm always pointing the wrong way.
I had to remember I'm trying to point left because I'm looking at the screen.
It's available on Amazon Kindle, Barnes and Noble, Google, and Apple Books. So go out and get your copy today.
I got one, and it actually is a good read.
It actually is. It talks a little bit about actually his story, some of his interviews, how media has changed over the course of his 40 plus years. It's kind of interesting to look back and see how things were and how things are now. Um, but
And in
yes,
other
go to our
times,
website. What?
in other times, looking back is always good.
I hear you. I hear you. But they have some old photographs too, like a young Muhammad Ali, a young
Like
Scott, believe that
like
or not.
honors.
But also go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Go read Jeremy, George, Scott from pictures.
Even
If you
some
like,
uptight guy named JB Ellis on there too.
I know. Yes. Yes. JB, we missed you at the draft, but we are glad that hear that your dad is recovering, and we sending still our prayers for more recovery for you, your dad. And let's see, podcasts. If you like to listen to the audio version, it can be heard wherever you get your podcast. If you want to sponsor a show or advertise, call Scott 954-304-4941 or email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you missed any of that, it's scrolling through this whole broadcast. You can always go back and watch and get whatever you missed. More importantly, obviously, we want you to subscribe and share. So, all of you that commented, most of you are subscribers already. Thank you very much. But share it with other people and spread the word because we want to keep growing. We want to keep giving you more content like this. So, and if you have ideas, you never know. We might even bring you on a show.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Oh,
love
you're playing now.
it. Yeah, it's fun.
It
You know,
is.
I had to. People ask for it. I'll use it sparingly because I don't want Scott to go, stop that.
Well, on our show, it doesn't matter because he's not on our show. So, but yes.
Welcome to the country club.
Well, Jeremy, it's been real, but it is getting to be that time. So we will sign off and we will see you all here next week. Have a great week. Thanks, everyone.